Thank you very much indeed. First of all, a small correction, Mr. Michailidis, not Dr. Michailidis, okay? All right, thank you very much. So let me share the screen.
Can you enlarge it? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, I think you see and you hear me.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. First of all, that I participate in this conference. I would like to share you today some of my practice work, doing some seminars and conferences and workshops in executive leadership and executive managers in every hierarchy level. And I'm going to share with you some findings and some new ways of dealing with the new skills that people, professionals require and need for future jobs and for the future that is coming. Okay. The main title is The Art of Foresighting Learning, New Ways to Learn New Skills for Future Jobs. I want to emphasize in three concepts. First of all, future and future jobs, new skills that we require for this future, and of course, new ways to learn these new skills. So let's start with a small summary, abstract summary, okay, of what we're going to talk about. First of all, acquiring pure fact-based knowledge is no longer sufficient when it comes to dealing with increasingly complex realities in the machine age, such as the growth economy, climate change, and global health crisis. 21st century professionals, you can see the articles, of course, and the links. 21st century professionals who want to interact with the world in a constructive way need to cultivate human capabilities, develop relevant practical skills, and acquire relational knowledge, which implies that they can apply factual knowledge in diverse contexts so as to solve complex problems. This presentation aims to highlight the role of poetry in supporting every professional across cultural, hierarchical, and disciplinary boundaries in developing future skills. The focus is on communication skills, critical thinking skills, creativity and imagination, of course, skills. Future skills that have the power to imagine new possibilities and then act on them. Two case studies are going to be given as indicative examples to show how poetry enables leaders to connect with their creative power. Is some indicative work that we do during these workshops. Okay, so let's start. We're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, shaping a new era for humanity. We stand on the brink of a new technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to each other. The first industrial revolution used water and steam power to mechanize production. The second used electric power to create mass production. The third used electronics and information technology to automate production. Now, we have the fourth industrial revolution, called also Industry 4.0. It is characterized by a fusion of technologies that it is blurring the lines between the physical, digital, and biological spheres. It is a new chapter in human development, enabled by extraordinary technology advances commensurate with those of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. Of course, the speed of current breakthroughs has no historical precedent. When compared with previous industrial revolutions, the fourth is evolving at an exponential rather than a linear pace. And that's the difficult part, that the humans, they have to adapt to it very rapidly. And this is the difficult point. Moreover, it is disturbing almost every industry in every country. It affecting us all, okay? The integration of these physical, biological, and digital systems in new and exciting ways is creating complex automating systems that will result in significant changes to the nature of work. Now, let's see the nature of work, because we have to understand what is really happening, what is the shift all about, because if we don't understand the shift, if we don't understand the patterns that they change, it is not possible to predict, okay, to see the mega trends. It's not possible to predict what kind of skills do we need in this new era that is already here. So let's see the ever-changing nature of work, and let's take some disruption lessons from history. First, over time, the human race has passed through several distinct ages. Transitions from one economic age to another sent great disruption lessons through nearly all aspects of economic life. The skills, talents, and characteristics that have dominated at successive stages of economic revolution provide a good example. Let's start from the agrarian age. The great bulk of the labor force used muscle power for plowing, planting, picking, hauling, harvesting, and other tasks. The limitations of muscle power are obvious. Humans and domesticated animals are costly to feed. They tire and get sick. The spread of tractors, trucks, reapers, and other powered farm machinery devalued the effort of even the strongest workers. The industrial age turned farmers into factory workers. Physical strength was no longer enough. Pulling the levers and pushing the buttons that control the machinery and equipment demanded manual dexterity and motor skills. People began to work with their hands, not their backs. Information age computers grew cheaper and more powerful, and they proved better than humans at guiding the repetitive motions of the assembly line and the road work of counting and tracking. Automation devalued manual dexterity and motor skills and formulaic intelligence, and factory workers found jobs harder to find and raises difficult to earn. The economy's ballast swung toward higher order mental activities. More and more people found jobs that employed analytic reasoning. Computers did the calculating, but human beings were still needed to program the software and interpret the data. The information age is dead. Long live the imagination age. The first significant age was the agricultural age, which gave rise to an agrarian society and lasted about 10,000 years. The industrial age heralded another breakthrough and lasted approximately 200 years. Then came the information age with the development of computers. It has been around for about 40 years. Despite its seeming infancy, many commentators are stating that it is already coming to a close. What is replacing it? There are several terms being used, the most popular being the imagination age. The term imagination age was first introduced by designer and writer Charlie McGee in 1993, and then popularized by artist, writer, and cultural philosopher Rita King. As you saw him, is her famous TEDx talking. The concept of the imagination age has been extended by some thinkers to an imagination economy, where intuitive and creating thinking create economic value, after logical and rational thinking has been outsourced to other economies. Let's see how technology is leading humans into the imagination age, the rise of the imagination work. In the imagination age, work will evolve yet again, pushing to the fore the more advanced human attributes, those still beyond the scope of modern machines. Today, computers are able to do more of the thinking. IBM's Watson is co-writing pop hits, like you see here with collaboration with Bob Dylan. Uber is deploying self-driving cars, and Amazon is delivering packages by drone. As workers offload more tasks to computers, it raises questions. What role will people play in the future of work? What work is uniquely human? From hands to heads, the next revolution will see work shift to our hearts, our ability to dream, express passion, and go beyond mere rational thinking. Unlike artificial intelligence and other technology, people possess a faculty computers cannot match yet. The power to imagine new possibilities and then act on them. Our unique ability is imagination. Let's meet the imagination worker. Those who think creatively to envision a different future and work to make that vision a reality. Their capital, imagination. Their job, tinkering with ideas, concepts, and the possibility to innovate a better tomorrow. From R&D, from research and development, to leadership, to marketing and sales, to product management, teams of all types need imagination workers. It takes people from all sorts of backgrounds to turn ideas into realities. Critically, imagination work is not limited to a small group of creatives. The opposite is true. Imagination acknowledges that aha moments come from all of us. Everyone can and must use imagination to make innovation a part of their daily work. In many ways, human beings were always living in their imagination. Every invention or human construct, whether it be the spaceship, an architectural wonder, or an iPhone, once existed as a mere idea imagined in someone's mind. The world that humans have designed and built over the centuries is a projection of their imagination. Triggered by the fourth industrial revolution, the imagination age belongs to dreamers, creators, innovators, and meaning makers, bringing a renaissance of imagination, creativity, and innovation and the intersection of human minds and disruptive technologies that are blurring the physical, digital, and biological spheres. But we have an imagination gap. We live in turbulent, terribly uncertain times. Wicked problems abound, complex challenges that have no clear beginning or end. Imagination is our way forward. Adaptability, agility, collaboration, innovation. All of these important competitive advantages begin with imagination. Putting imagination to work offers the possibility of solving uncertainty with innovative possibilities. However, as we can see, and you can have through this link, all the reports through the Adobe, the company Adobe, that make a global creativity research. However, then, even as the challenges and opportunities are greater than ever, we find ourselves using and applying our imagination less and less. There is a gap between what we think about, the kind of impact we try to have, and what we could conceivably achieve. We have an imagination gap. We are not going to get to have the kind of impact that is possible until we close that gap. Everybody has an imagination. Everybody is born with an extraordinarily powerful tool to dream up things that nobody else can fully understand or appreciate. Our brain is far away the most powerful tool that exists, with unlimited capacity to generate new and transformative ideas only when it is activated and applied. Not only aren't we using our imagination as we could, we are actively shutting down others' imagination, or our children, or our workers, or our whatever. Okay. We have revoked the privilege we have to be imaginative. Addressing the imagination gap. Why professionals need to read and analyze poetry? Yes, poetry, to lead in the imagination economy. Professionals in every domain of economy will need to be resilient, open-minded, and creative. In other words, they are being called on to engage in a new and extremely challenging way of thinking to develop answers for an unknown and brutally complex future. We can think of no better tool for this important mindset shift than poetry. Poetry requires of its readers a different way of thinking, more expansive than usual, more flexible, more nuanced, a way to tune in to the undercurrents, accept ambiguity and the absence of answers, embrace lack of closure, and relish complexity and uncertainty. A poem does not have one meaning, but many meanings all in play simultaneously. It is therefore open to many, often conflicting interpretations. Business leaders themselves were recognizing this need. The importance of agile, adaptive, or creative thinking skills were underscored starkly by Apple CEO Tim Cook, who puts it in this way. I'm not worried about artificial intelligence giving computers the ability to think like humans. I'm more concerned about people thinking like computers. In other words, Cook was proposing that professionals need to think in an exploratory, forward-thinking, what-if way, rather than relying on the tried and tested, the known, and what has been. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft and responsible for one of the most successful turnarounds in history, admits to being an avid poetry reader and has tellingly equated poetry with that force created within us that seeks out the unimaginable, that gets us up to solve the impossible. Researchers at UK Liverpool University used functional magnetic resonance machinery to explore the neural and cognitive basis of literary awareness in a group of participants. Their study, Shall I Compare Thee? The neural basis of literary awareness and its benefits to cognition, concluded. The sustained experience of reading poems might be expected to challenge rigid expectancies and fixed thoughts, and to increase mental flexibility through the process of reappraisal of meaning and the acceptance of fresh meanings. In other words, scientific opinion has now added its voice to the growing chorus of those advocating poetry as a means of developing flexible thinking. Poetry, in its insistence on living the questions, is a potent means of acquiring these crucial thinking and communication skills. Rather than a frivolous luxury, poetry is a necessity in paving the way from merely surviving to actually thriving in uncharted circumstances. Now we're going to give you two, as an indicative work, two short analysis of poems of Cavafy as case studies. The first one is Thermopylae. Thermopylae is about courage and honor, excited in one of the greatest stories ever told. It validates those who fought heroically to the end, even knowing that they were doomed. Theirs is a unique sense of honor. Thermopylae defines the heroic life, and it is metaphorically linked to that which brings meaning and depth to leaders' lives. Living the heroic life thus becomes a leadership guide. What is your Thermopylae? How do you define it? In its brevity, it reminds leaders to stick to their guns and live a life that it is meaningful and principled. Its messages about honor and loyalty, the qualities a soldier, a leader should possess, are of essence. In his poem, Cavafy takes the mind of the participants away from the battle and tells them to be consistent to rightfulness, to be compassionate and generous no matter their circumstance, and be trustful in all that they do. And this is called authentic leadership. The poem's final lines tell us that life has setbacks and potential for failure. More honor is due to them when they foresee that Ephialtes will turn up in the end and that Midas will break through after all. Everybody has their own Thermopylae, but in the heroic life, leaders soldier on as the Spartans did. The second poem, as an indicative analysis, is going to be The God Abandons Antony by Cavafy again. Cavafy's poem, even though it refers to Antonio, actually has a much wider application, and it is essentially addressed to every human being. Antonio, in other words, symbolizes every person who, having fought in his life to achieve his goals and dreams, at some point comes face to face with the loss of all of them. That is when, according to the poet, he should show all his mental strength, facing the loss with dignity and without crying and pleading. The man who respects himself fights for what he desires, but is always ready to face the possibility of losing what he has acquired. The poet guides Antonio on how he should face the critical moments to the end. As soon as the invisible troop is heard passing, that is, as soon as it is perceived that the end is near, there is no reason to mourn for what is lost, since such thing is futile. No matter how much a person mourns in the face of the inevitability of doom and loss, nothing changes, which is why the poet urges us to avoid that useless emotional outburst. Poetry is a strong emotional driver, but not all of us are poets. That is why we connect with poems that resonate with our own worldview. They then become personal anthems and inspire our personal and professional journeys. Thank you very much.